Here we go. Now we're ready. Chapter 29. Here we go. The Alter Rebbe is discussing some fundamental concepts in Avodas Hashem and service of God. And one of them is how to overcome depression, how to overcome sadness, how to overcome distraction, all these different things that happen. Sometimes the depression is from worldly matters, sometimes it's from your inadequacies in service of Hashem, all these different things. And we focused on, and some of these chapters have been unbelievable. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about something called Timtum Halev. Timtum Halev means dullness or stuffiness of the heart, which means like this. If, let's say, for example, there's something beautiful, music, art, whatever it is, and everyone's inspired, and you go there and you say, something's wrong with you, right? Because if you're not moved by Beethoven's 13th, right? I don't know, whatever.
Beethoven's fifth.
There you go.
Or the ninth.
Right, the 5th to the 9th, right? Right? Then something's wrong with you. I mean, you can't just wait, stop a piece of music. No, right? If you see some unbelievable painting, maybe it's the Mona Lisa, it could be like, Now Mona Lisa is getting its own room.
Sometimes it's not the real one.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
They don't put out the real one all the time.
Well, now they have these Meshuggahim throwing paint and soup on this thing. So we're dealing with over here is, let's say you have a guy who's learning Torah, right? Or he's contemplating the greatness of God, and it's not having the prescribed effect. We know the medicine is good. We know the material is good. The problem is the recipient, right? Because if Torah, mitzvahs, or contemplation of God, it should work, right? If it's not working for you, they don't look at the. If you're learning the Gemara and you don't get it, the response isn't, the Gemara doesn't make sense, idiot, slam the book shut. The response is, I don't get it, I need to work harder, right? So this is what we're going to deal with. It's a situation where a person is trying to utilize the tools that we know we know function, we know to help a person to inspire them, but he's not inspired. Chapter 29, 374 in the old print. Where are we?
383.
In 383 in the print. Now more. There's something else. Something else the Beinim have to take advice, have to contend with, have to think about. I share that. If at times, and it could be more than just at times. They have the dullness of heart that makes their heart like a stone. And what's the effect? The effect is they cannot open their hearts to any service of the heart, which is davening. Davening is an emotional thing. Davening is, the books should be up there if there are.
What's happening?
Davening is an emotional activity. What does it mean? It means you don't just go say the words. Maybe that's daven. That's not really how you're supposed to daven. How a person is supposed to pray is you're supposed to read, and you're supposed to understand, and then you're supposed to be inspired. So if the word Kavana, right? That's what Kavana is. Be inspired by what you're reading. So if you read in the Siddur, for example, that Hashem renews creation every moment of every day, and you're like, big deal, then something is the matter. So he says over here, we're holding in your book 383, Asaf in your book, or 374. Chassidus explains that prayer is the service of heart. See, why? Because it takes place in the heart, and B, the object of prayer is the heart. For prayer, one tries to transform the nature of the heart, to steer it away from the mundane, and try to find an appreciation for the godly. That's what prayer is. One of the things that prayer is supposed to do is supposed to try to fine tune your personality. Before prayer, maybe you're thinking about cream cheese and lox. I know I have this issue because it comes the end of Yom Kippur, right? And it's a whole. God, in the sense of humor, made the holiest part of Yom Kippur right before the end of the fast. And we try and tell people, listen, you guys, you got to concentrate, you got to think about God and the Ilah Hashem Hu Lakim Shema Yisrael. But people are struggling because they're thinking about bagels and lox.
By Musaf.
Maybe the problem is most people leave. they don't stick around. So the purpose of prayer is try to fine tune, but it's not working. V'gam lefamim, and there are sometimes. Well, he cannot fight with the Yetzer Hara, with the evil inclination, to sanctify himself a mutterloi, what's permitted. We spoke about in a previous chapter that not only is a person obligated to not sin, not only is a person obligated to stay away from prohibited acts. That for sure you can't do. Like we said in the name of the Alter Rebbe, what you're not allowed to do, you can't do. And what you're allowed to do, you don't have to do. Right? It says, and that's what's called, the napkin's right under the bag of your better. And that's what it's called, Kaddish Atzmecha b'mutalach. Sanctify yourself by what is by what is permitted. That's the idea. And a person is struggling with this. Why? Because his heart is dull, his heart is heavy. Because you have this motor inside of you and saying, I want chocolate. You see? So every time I talk about chocolate cake, and I brought chocolate cake in order to make the example real. I want ice cream. And it's kosher, it's ORB, it's whatever it is, it's okay, it has all the kosher symbols. The problem is, you shouldn't. Why? Because you don't need it. You're doing it just because it's an impulse. And you're having a very hard time controlling it. And this is the advice given by the Zohar. The Rav says, this is a quote in the Zohar, it says in the academy in Gan Eden, up in heaven, it says, a log, a piece of wood, the loy solag bay nahira, that's not catching on fire. Ira, you're the Boy Scout here, no? What happens if a log is too thick? It's not catching on fire. What do you got to do?
You gotta cut the log.
Mevachenle, you got to break it. You have to.
Boy Scout?
Gotta chop it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, eagle. Yeah.
Eagle Scout?
No, my son's an Eagle Scout.
Oh, sorry. Wrong Schrager.
He's a sponsor of an
Come on,
Eagle
Rabbi,
Scout.
from
That's
Yeah, exactly.
even more impressive.
So he said,
Scout became a rabbi.
exactly. So he said, a log it's not catching on fire, mevachenle, you have to splinter it. Gufa, a body, the loisolag beinahira, the nishmasa, a body where the fire of the soul is not catching on. What do you got to do? Mevachenle, you got to crush it a little bit. It means you're too thick, you're too coarse. In Yiddish, you're too grub. You ever heard that saying, Ben, before? Grub?
No.
Grub means you're too animalistic. You're too into yourself. You have to. You need a good kick. You need to give yourself a good kick in the pants. You're too inward. You're too focused on yourself. And that's why the goodness is not getting through. There's some people that they're so focused on themselves that they can't realize anything that's going around them. Even though maybe the bigger emergency, and what's that old joke? This guy is driving a jalopy. You know what a jalopy is? You ever heard that term before? Someone told me that term was out when you used the term.
Everyone's eating that sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And
Before your time, but yeah. We get
and he's obviously the air conditioning doesn't work,
Yeah.
so he has his hand outside. And some car comes and sideswipes him, and the guy comes and says, "Oh my God, my car!" Someone says to him, "Dude, your car. Look at your hand." It's like Not there. Guy looks at it, oh my God, my Rolex. Right? Yeah, meaning sometimes a person can be so off-centered in his focus and about himself. He doesn't appreciate what's really good. And that's a big problem. It says Pirush. Let's explain the Zohar a little bit. Pirush Nahira the Nishmasa, the light of the soul. Sh'or HaNeshama, the light of the soul, Vaseichel and intellect. A miracle Kachlim Mishal Al Chubnis Shebeguf. Doesn't shine on the. It doesn't shine to and to rule over the materialness, the coarseness of the body. What's that saying? Energy is wasted on the young. What's that?
Youth is wasted.
Youth is wasted on the young. Right. Problem is, you're old, you have intelligence, you don't have the energy. So the problem is over here is, you have. I remember when I was in yeshiva. I was in year 3 of yeshiva, and the way Chabad yeshiva works, it's a good. I say like yeshiva, I mean like yeshiva college, so to speak. You go for 4 years, and the 5th year you go to a community, you go to another school. It's kind of like student exchange. So usually, most schools are very strict. You have to be after the 4th year. They don't send guys early. But for whatever reason, the school that I was, they were letting guys, if you really wanted in year 3, go. So, and I had a good rapport with the head of the yeshiva.
Another Andrews here.
I know it's hard to believe, but I actually was a good boy. I would sit and learn. God liked me, so I knew if I wanted, I can ask, and he would send me. So I asked my father. I said, what do you think I should do? He said, stay in yeshiva. I said, but guys are leaving. He said, Mordechai, where are you running exactly? This is the best time of your life. I'm paying all your bills. Your job is to learn Torah. That's it. What are you running to pay bills? But you're running to get married. You have your entire life to pay bills, and have responsibility. Enjoy life the way it is now. Thank God I listened to him. The guys are running around and they're not focusing on what's truly important, and they make stupid decisions. People are running, they're not learning or they're not appreciating the Judaism they have. Why? Because I don't know, whatever it is. So how do you get through the dullness, the idiocy? And if I would tell you some of the excuses people give me, come to Shul Yom Kippur, whatever. Oh, I have a birthday party, and I know the Yom Kippurs,
in year 5, where did you go? Where'd you go in year 5 when it was time?
I went two in Israel, 2 here in Miami, and my exchange year was in Sydney.
Australia?
Yeah.
You went to Sydney?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Does the toilet flush counterclockwise?
I remember I was sitting down. So now, we're going back into the Tanya. We're not talking about an idiot over here. The guy can't learn. The guy's learning. And he understands. And he thinks about and he thinks about the greatness of Hashem. But what's happening? It remains abstract. There's the famous line in the Gemara that a thief, before he breaks into someone's house, he prays to God. He prays to God to have success in his endeavor. And Chassidus deals with this phenomenon. It's 376, that stuff. So why is this thief praying to God? Mele. Are you praying to the God who told you not to steal? So if you believe in God, don't steal. And if you don't believe in God, why are you praying? Chassidus explains it's not a contradiction. The problem is that the belief remains abstract. It doesn't affect his day-to-day activities. So you can have, I remember my wife saying, you have a lot of people in South America walking around with symbols of their faith across their neck, but they're all corrupt, everybody. And they're all very religious, very religious. So what's happening? The guy can believe and he can learn. The problem is it's not having an effect. Why? Because he's very, very coarse. He's very thick. It means the beauty of the content is not having an effect on him. and the problem isn't the content, because if you go to a symphony and you hear Beethoven's Fifth, I said 13th, whatever it is, right? And you hear Beethoven's Fifth, and you don't appreciate it. You are the problem, not the music, not the symphony. You're the problem. So what do you do? Asibahi, and the problem is, I'm looking on it over here. Okay, Asibahi. The problem is gasa saklipa. It's the arrogance of the klipa, the coarseness of what's covering over holiness. And one of the things we're going to talk about over here is that self-control is a muscle, and you have to exercise that muscle. So if a person is acting like a grub young, like a vile, unrefined person, and all of a sudden he doesn't understand why he's not being inspired. Well, because you spend so much time investing in your physical indulgences, that how can you possibly expect to appreciate finer things in life?
Is that like a narcissist, by definition?
Yeah, I mean, narcissist is an example, right?
Yeah.
You can't appreciate anyone else because you only focus on yourself.
Do it yourself.
Yeah. So over here, if every single time, right, it says you want chocolate cake, your body says chocolate cake, eat chocolate. Every time ice cream. Every time whatever it is, and all of a sudden you decide, okay, diet. It's gonna be very, very hard. Means there's appreciating the finer things in life. Let's say meat or wine or music, whatever it is, takes practice. Right? There's a certain meaning. Let's go off track for a second. As parents, ultimately, our goal is to get our kids to do the right thing because it's the right thing. But when they're kids, kids by nature are very focused on themselves. All they care about, right? You ask a kid, why do you love mommy? Because she makes me food, and she she gives me hugs. Me. Everything is me. That's normal. Our job as parents is to help them see outside themselves. The problem with some parents today is they don't, and the kids grow up to be big kids, and obnoxious kids, because they never heard the word no before. But what do you do? So in the beginning, you tell the kid to do the right thing because why? I'll give you a candy, right? I'll buy you a car. And then, but ultimately, you're trying to wean the kid off, not to do the right thing because you benefit, to do the right thing because it's the right thing. It takes time, but if we're constantly doing it to ourselves and to our kids, for example, that you do it only because what's in it for you, incentivized for you, then it's very, very hard to appreciate the right thing. There's a concept of learning Torah, for example. Why? Because it's God's Torah. Not because you're going to get a plaque. You know what the highest level you know what the second highest level of charity is? The highest level of charity is giving someone a job. That's the highest level of charity. Yeah, a job. Yeah, giving someone a job. This way the person doesn't have to beg for money. This way he can support himself. That's the highest level of charity. The second highest level of charity is giving, and you don't know who you're giving to, and that person doesn't know who they're receiving from. Why? Because there's no recognition here. You're doing it because it's the right thing. Now, does that mean if someone wants a plaque on the wall, we don't take the money? Of course we take the money. Because ultimately, the Gemara talks about this. Rabbi Yehuda, he would give us a space of honor in the shul to the donors, whatever it is. So why are you doing that? They're only doing it so I can. Yeah, but ultimately because the shul needs money for toilet paper and light bulb. Yeah, and cholent, exactly. Right, but
money.
Yeah.
Cholent.
Yeah.
What's money to run?
What's more important, cholent or light? I mean, it's not even. If we had electricity only for the outlet for the cholent pot, that would be enough. Dainu. You know what I'm saying?
Depends on the time of the day.
Exactly. Dainu. Right. So the problem is that sometimes our own thickness will cover over shemagbi atzma or kedushes nafshalakis, It will cover over, lift itself over on the light of holiness, and will cover and cover its and darken its light. And for this, nice. And for this, tzarech levatsha. You gotta smash it. You gotta crush it. Ulashpila and cast it down to the ground. Why? If someone buys a 85-inch TV, why are they buying an 85-inch TV? Because they can't see the game. The heart of they can't see. Why? You want to know why? It's this way they can come on Monday morning to the office and say,
Did you see the game?
I saw it. I got this ULED 4K. But think about it. I'm not saying anything wrong with 85. You guys want to give me 85? I have no place to put it, but you can give it. But the point is, a lot of the shtus we do, donated. A lot of the shtus we do.
Okay.
I picked it up from some guy's office. He was closing down his office. Rabbi, you want to scream for the show? I said, okay.
You didn't have like the McDonald's menu on it? You did good.
That family has it's missing 5 kids.
You're right.
I just gotta point that out.
It's a young family. They're growing. Right. Part of the family is behind the manure.
Those kids are walking in line.
Yeah, exactly. They blend. But a lot of the shtus we do, a lot of the nonsense we do is because we invest importance. In fact, the whole American economy is based on this idea. You have to have it. You have to have it now. If you don't have it now, you take out that
Consumerism. FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO, consumerism. And the whole economy collapses.
Yeah.
So why do you eat the cake? Because you need the cake? No, because you have to have it. The moment you say you don't have to have it, you totally crush the whole enthusiasm. Coarseness and all that is all about enthusiasm. You take that out, and all of a sudden you put things in perspective. The Hainu, what does that mean? How do we do that? How do we crush it? To set time lahashvelatzme. We spend too much time thinking how good we are. There's also the idea of thinking about where you're lacking, where you need to improve. And you might think, I'm going to become depressed. It's not a question of depression. There's a question of you thinking, if you think you're perfect, and everything's perfect, get off the phone with your mother. It's time to grow up a little bit. There's a famous story of a king who, I'm not sure if it's a story or a mashal or anecdote. It doesn't make a difference. The lesson is powerful. The king was lost in a forest, and a shepherd or a peasant found him, and he thought, listen, I'm the king, and the guy believed him and brought him back he let him out of the forest and brought him back to the palace. And the king, out of love for this peasant, gave him an important position, and the guy became wealthy. And there's some ministers that didn't like that this Johnny come lately was now a big macher, a big knacker in the government. So they're always trying to figure out ways to bring him down. So they went over to the king, and they started convincing him the guy is ripping off money. You should know. First, the king didn't want to believe it. Finally, they wore him down. The king decided he's going to go see for himself. He goes to the guy's house, and he sees the guy has a nice house. I mean, nothing like crazy, but befitting the minister. And he's walking through room by room. They come to a door. The king tries to open the door. Verschlossen. It's locked. The king says, "What's in here?" He says, "No one goes in that room." The king says, "Excuse me?" He says, "I'm the king." He says, "No one's allowed in that room." Now the king's starting to believe the guy, Taka. He's had all this crisp $100 bills. What the anti-Semites think about us. I'm saying we have a room with all. And finally the king said, "Listen here, mister, you don't open it up. The guy has no choice." He opens it up, and then in the room, he's very surprised. This is a plain wooden box, and very simple, worn-out clothing. King says, "Explain yourself." He says, "Remember the day you met me? What was I? I was a peasant. I was wearing peasant clothes, and you lifted me up, and you made me a big shot. But in a moment, you could take it away. So my greatness and my importance is not mine, it's because of you. So I want to always make sure that my ego doesn't get in the way. I don't do anything stupid. So every single day, I come in here, I put on the clothing I was wearing when I met you, and I sit and I contemplate. I think for a few minutes that my worth is not my worth. It's worth because that you gave me. And the king was, this guy's the best ever, right? And that's what. Sometimes we make stupid mistakes. Not sometimes. Every stupid mistake we make is because we get so we over-invested in our self-worth. How many good things did you do because you thought, oh my God, I'm amazing? That you're supposed to do when it comes to a mitzvah. So God gave me value, but value invested by someone else, by the king. But if you're too caught up in yourself, what do you got to do? You have to sit in the box a little bit and think to yourself, you think you're so special? How many people does the world have now? 8 billion, right? Around 8 billion. Take one comes, one goes. The world's happened before you. The world's happening after you. Get over yourself. I know it's a solemn thought, but sometimes it's important for us to, we get too caught up in self-importance. For humbling oneself and considering oneself despicable, contemptible. Where you come, like the Pirkei Avot says, chapter 3. Look at 3 things and you won't come to sin. Where you come from, where you're going to, and who before whom you have to give judgment. Where you come from a putrid seed. Where you're going to the ground. Who do you have to stand before? The king. So you stop getting excited. Now, once you think about that, then automatically now you're gonna have a broken heart, ruach nishpara, and the broken spirit. And what are you gonna break? The sitra achra. Because again, what is the sitra achra? The sitra achra is consumerism. You gotta have it. You gotta do it. You have to eat the cake, and you have to do it now. Otherwise, like you said, Eric, FOMO, you miss out. The moment you suck out that juiciness of impulse, you know the famous study they did with kids. They put them in the room and they put, was it 1 cupcake or something, right?
If you wait.
So you wait, I'll give you, right? And they found the kids that could wait were very, very successful, a lot more successful later in life. This is what the Alter was saying over here. So he's saying is over here, you have to put into perspective. It's just not worth it. And this is the case of the Beinim, the very man himself. This is what's going on inside each one of us. You have your animal soul who's telling you to partake and embellish and indulge. And the problem is it's very hard to invest in worthwhile. Think of it, by the way, financially, right? Everybody knows they have to save money. This is not a secret. Everybody knows there's going to come a time where the boiler is going to break. There's going to be a flat tire. There's not a question of if. It's a question of when. But what do Americans do? They go to Walmart and they buy an 85-inch TV. Why? Because. And then what happens? When they get a flat tire,
Spend the money on the TV.
Spend the money on
the
TV.
TV. Come on.
Right?
Real Americans pawn their TV.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
They buy a tire on lease.
Right, there you go.
They rent a tire and that gets repossessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine you went to the guy on the day that his boiler broke. And you say, you want to buy an 85-inch TV? You say, you crazy? I don't have money for an 85-inch TV now. But it's amazing. It's OLED. It's 4K. It's You say, it sounds amazing. But I'm sorry. Right now, my focus is on hot water. All of a sudden, all the excitement and all the chazarai and all the big things about the TV seem meaningless. Why? Because right now I need hot water. Imagine the lady tells her husband, call the plumber because Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Call the plumber to fix the boiler. He says, instead of calling the plumber, on the way to calling the plumber, I saw an advertisement for an 85-inch TV. How angry would she be? Right?
What if you bought the TV and got a free hot water heater?
There you go. I'm sure Brandsmart is running some kind of special. No, you don't think so, huh? But meaning, when you're in the misery of no hot water, all of a sudden the attraction of the new TV seems meaningless. It's not even a thought. So what do you got to do when the impulse for the new TV comes, right? You have to think about yourself. Think this. Oh boy, this is really isn't. It really isn't necessary. But that's what that Nefesh Bahamas does. It's brand smart. It's always advertising, pushing. Nefesh HaChayunis, because the vital soul, Mechaya Guf, that gives life to the body, who betakfel kodas b'livay, by Beinani, by a regular person, it's in its natural state. It means naturally your animal soul, your vital soul is never running out of advertising dollars. You watch TV, and I'm sure there's a company or cars, they don't stop advertising. And you think to yourself, how much money could they spend in advertising? When are they going to run out? They never run out. Your animal soul doesn't run out of advertising dollars. It's always going to push you. Nimsa he automatically. That is the person. The person is constantly fighting between responsible, constructive decisions and wasteful ones. That's the truth. Then you have the other side in regard to the divine soul. Nemar. So you see, on one hand you have chocolate cake, on the other hand you have a neshama that we say every morning. Shenasata bi, that you gave me to Hayri is pure, and it says Shenasata bi daika. If you look at it carefully, it says that you gave me. Miklal. From here you learn out that the person is not entirely only the neshama. Is not Adam atzmai eina neshama tahira. A person's identity is not just the soul. By a righteous person, his entire identity is the soul. But by a regular person, you have this dichotomy. You have this fight going on inside of you, right? Salad, hamburger, right? Cake, fruit, right? These are our struggles. Shebehem hu lehepech. By a tzaddik is just the opposite. 378 in Oldman. And neshama tahira, what page?
387.
The nefesh elokis adam, by tzaddik, his entire identity is his godly persona. And his body is just a tool for the godly soul. And that's why we have an interesting story in the Gemara, right? Or in the Medrash. In the Medrash, where it says that the way Hillel spoke about his body. Hillel was such a more of a godly figure, but his soul happened to be in the body, and that body happened to need to eat. But he didn't eat because he wanted to eat. He needed because he needed to eat. I mean, can you imagine? And the way he spoke about it, remember Hillel, like Hillel said to his students, when he would go to eat, he would say, he's going to do kindness to this poor, lowly creature, who gufay, and that was his body. That's what he looked like. Because his body was considered like a foreign entity, because he was all holy. Therefore he said it. The fact that he was doing kindness, the fact that he gave it to eat. Because Hillel was a tzaddik, and a tzaddik is only a godly figure. And that was the godly soul was the only thing giving it life. That the evil that he was born with, that was in the animating soul, but then of a sudden the was totally the taiv was totally changed over to good. And that is totally turned over. But we said that's a gift. Remember, we learned in previous chapters, that's not normal. You can't ask for not normal thing. Imagine a guy came to a rabbi and is complaining, I've been praying to God that I should grow wings and fly. Or I should fly like Superman. You know, I saw it in a movie. You know? Yeah. And he's very frustrated because he's not flying. Rabbi probably should tell him, jump off a building and go see. Okay. Asaf, but why is that ridiculous? Because you can't hope for something that's impossible, something that's not natural. You can't pray to God. You know, like we're coming up to Passover. Jewish people are standing by the sea. Did any of them pray that the water should be split? No. They prayed. One said, let's commit suicide. One said, let's fight. One said, let's go back to Israel. Go back to Egypt. One said, let's pray to God for salvation. But no one said, let's pray that the water should split. It's not. You can't pray for something impossible. A tzaddik is somebody we learned. It's born with a natural inclinations and tendencies and everything else. Only because of his behavior and activities and yada yada yada, God says, you know something, I'll do you a favor. I'll take away that natural tendency toward physical behavior, indulgence in physical behavior. So you'll go about your physical life as just as, a job. But that's not normal. So don't strive for it. It's Aval Beinani, but Alter Rebbe says in 379. But the normal person, since his animal soul, his vital soul, his animal soul, is from the other side. What's the other side? We learned other side means it's not in total flow, it's not total sync to godliness. Anything that's not a total conduit to godliness is called the other side. I'm a specialist, but that it's invested and expressed in his blood, in his flesh. It's not changed over to good. So what's happening here is the body says, what are you talking to me about tefillin and Torah? I want chocolate cake. You talk chocolate cake, now you have my attention. Right? That's why, by the way, we love Shabbos. Because we're talking the animal soul. During the week, it's no mitzvah to eat. So it's a whole fight. But animal soul, why do more people come to Shul on Shabbos? You tell an animal soul, forget davening. There's cholent. There's challah. There's l'chaim. The animal says, ooh, now we're talking. So I got to sit through this bozo talking and reading. All right, fine, but make it quick. My animal soul could only tolerate so much, right? But that's what it is. That's why the greatest mitzvahs, by the way, are not the mitzvahs where we so to speak punish our animal souls, and we say, listen, we're going to go on our trip over here. We're dragging you along. That's what Yom Kippur is. That's Yom Kippur's hard, but the greatest mitzvahs are sukkahs, for example. We do with our entire body. We eat in the sukkah. Purim, for example, right? Pesach we eat, but what we eat, how much we eat, and what it does to us, right? We all have to kvetch and complain.
Some shvets.
Some shvets, exactly, yeah. Some people have a hard time, so it definitely is.
Quick question: is he talking about Hillel between Hillel and Shammai?
No.
It's the other Hillel, as I can.
No, this is Hillel. Hillel Zaki. There is only one Hillel.
Oh, okay. No, I've heard.
No, yeah, the grandsons. But when you say Hillel,
okay.
When you say Hillel, you mean Hillel HaZakin.
Yeah.
But when it says Hillel HaZakin,
HaZakin, that's the one.
The other famous Hillel is the one that made the calendar.
Yeah.
That's the other famous Hillel.
Okay.
But he's like Hillel the third, I think.
Just
Yeah. So that's what's. What are we doing? Oh, we still one. That's what's going on. So you have to come to terms and realize what you're up against. The neshama wants to do mitzvahs. Your body wants to do anything else, right? Whatever it is. So now, because of that, you have to realize the animal soul, your body is very, very much distant from God. Why? Because what does the animal soul really want? It wants chocolate cake. You think the chocolate cake is godly? Just because it's kosher makes it godly? Like those Gentiles who shop at the kosher store. Why are you shopping at the kosher store? Why are you paying $15 for a chocolate cake you're going to buy in Walmart? It's holy. It's blessed. All right. By the way, I've had Gentiles tell me that. A few times, I once asked a Gentile in line in Roma or Kosher Central, says, what are you doing here? Oh, it's holy, it's blessed. All right, I have a bridge to sell you from Brooklyn. Right? Right?
He's not wrong.
What?
Of course he's wrong.
It's in terms of meat, if he was getting meat.
Yeah, like I grew up with a friend who was Jamaican. His mom specifically bought at kosher markets because she thought the meat was cleaner. which it is.
Oh no, cleaner.
But
No,
meat.
the
When I
physical.
say meat, but like
No,
chocolate
but
cake,
I'm not.
yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't know, you can
the.
justify this.
I'm not talking about cleanliness.
Depends on the baker.
I'm talking about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
holier,
Depends on the
better.
Holy, to
Is
me,
kosher
if
meat
this
he-
animal
healthier
was
than-
tortured and then slaughtered in a brutal way, and now I'm about to eat it, or I can get a guaranteed like kosher slaughtered animal. There's a holier association there.
No.
Just in that case.
Meat.
Not the-
No. It's kosher meat means it's fit to be used in a holy way. Doesn't guarantee it's going to be used in a holy way.
It doesn't guarantee that. It guarantees that it was slaughtered in a holy way.
And that makes it and that makes it fit and be ready to be used in a holy way. But you can use the same meat in an indulgent way.
Right, but up until the point that you use it for the wrong reason, it's at a higher status than the neighborhood meat butcher.
Yes, because it's klipas nega, which means it can be elevated. The other meat cannot be elevated. It shows klipas tmeis.
I'm understanding a higher status and
Yeah.
highness in the
You just
way
want to
that
feel
it's
better about
made.
yourself. It's okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, don't they, before they slaughter the animal, there are blessings that have to be said, right?
There's a mitzvah, the bracha, on shechita.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not a sheikh. I don't think they don't make the blessing on every animal. They
They
want,
sharpen,
they
they
do
sharpen the
what-
They
blade
make
on
it
every
between
animal.
sharpening the blade.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
In between sharpening
They
the
sharpen
blade.
the blade between every cut.
I don't.
Yes.
They have to.
They don't. No, they don't.
Well, okay, that brings up a question.
Then
Let's say you
No,
say-
they have to-
guarantee the blade isn't dull.
They have to. No, they sharpen. No, they sharpen it in the morning before.
Say the blessing again.
Every day they
You
sharpen
said the
it,
blessing on the
and they test it. But they don't have to. They don't have to sharpen and check it between every animal. They do after a certain time. It also depends if they're doing poultry, if they're doing animals. Anyway, but yeah, there's a mitzvah. Yeah, but if they're shechting, animals in a row or chickens in a row, they make one bracha.
Yeah.
Unless there's a reason. Anyway,
And that bracha is in the other place.
again, but the word kosher means fit. All the news that's fit to print. They still put that in the New York Times?
Yeah.
In top left in the New York Times, all the news that's fit to print.
You still read the New York Times?
I don't read the New York Times, no.
Anyway, if you want, it's a relic. It's almost going out of business.
I'm not thrilled about some of their editorials, but
Yeah.
every once in a while, I like the New York section. That's about it.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm not-
What about the sports
I don't
section?
like their
yeah.
beliefs, but
Anyway,
With the Miami papers, all I like is the sports section.
that's right.
I'm not gonna
If they
pay for
even
that
have a
either.
sports section anymore.
Yeah. It's all ads. It's all ads. Anyway, so the point is like this.
The
point is that the fact that you are inclined towards beer, pour chocolate, no one's eating the chocolate, you gotta keep smashing on the chocolate. Go ahead and have chocolate. Make a bracha. The fact that a person is inclined to whatever behavior and not towards godliness means you're distant from God. Because with God everything's black and white. Either it's God oriented or it's not. And they're two worlds apart. So that's what he's got to know. So because a person desires this chocolate cake, is it fathomable that he could desire not kosher chocolate cake? Yeah. Right? Because he desires. And the description of animal soul is desire. And the problem with impulse is today it's what are they I'm not saying it is or it's not, but okay, just giving you an example. What was the whole argument against legalizing marijuana? They would say it's a gateway drug, right? Today it's marijuana, tomorrow it's cocaine, then it's heroin, then it's fentanyl, right? So when a person starts giving into his indulgences, so today I'm going to eat a chocolate cake because I want. And then tomorrow Nitzahar says, eat chocolate cake and this. And then I'll go to the store, it's a kosher symbol, and it's OR. Is it a kosher
So
symbol?
it's a slippery slope argument.
When it comes to impulse, I'm not giving is that a perfect? But impulse, meaning once you stop exercising self-control,
Yeah, it's just downward
so
trajectory.
then when that impulse comes to do something you really shouldn't, how are you going to stop yourself?
Well, you haven't exercised that muscle, like you were saying before.
Exactly.
Repel this attraction.
Exactly. That's I'm saying that's the problem. So the fact that the person has this ability to want, even if it's, there were some stories in the Gemara, people that were great people. But what happened was they started out very great, but then they went all the way to the other extreme. Why? Because in the beginning they thought, it can never happen to me. But because the person is able to want and desire something even permitted, but you can see the tail end of that story. It can be forbidden. That means he's in a state of distance from Hashem. Does that make sense? His body, yeah? Because a tzaddik can't desire. A tzaddik, a real tzaddik. And this is what we spoke about earlier. Some people think they're a tzaddik and they're not a tzaddik. And Rabbah, for example, thought he was a Beinoni and he wasn't. He was a tzaddik. But because the line between tzaddik and Beinoni on the outside is very, very, let me give you an example. So, I don't know if you notice, my wife was diagnosed, right, with breast cancer. Baruch Hashem, they caught her early and they did surgery. But they're doing a test. Why? Just to make sure there's no microcells floating around in the body. Because even though now everything's okay, and even though everything, but chas v'sholem, they don't want that it can come back later in a person. So what do? They have to make sure that there isn't. And if there is, they have to do chemo to destroy any macrocells, right? So it could be there's a guy who's a Beinoni, right? And he thinks to himself, he's totally cancer-free. He has no bad cells in his body and he can't desire anything. But what he doesn't realize is there's microcells floating around his body. And if he's not careful, he's not vigilant, it can come back. And there have been many stories of that, many. There have been stories like that in the Gemara and the Medrash of people who thought they were totally, in this case, the animal soul, the Yetzer Hara is the cancer. They were totally cancer-free and they weren't. And then when it came back with a vengeance and they were done. But the Alter Rebbe is saying the fact that you can desire chocolate cake means you can desire Hebrew National, which means you can desire, Burger King. So he says, okay, we'll do one more page, it's getting late. Even though right now you don't desire the Burger King, the McDonald's, the problem is that actually the problem is, the truth of the matter is that hamburger, the Arby's or the McDonald's or the Ruska, whatever the commercial looks good. Maimonides, by the way, addresses this. Maimonides says when you see something forbidden behavior or something attractive, you shouldn't say, I would never do that. I can never. That's below me. He probably said it in a French accent. Never. Maimonides says, it's good. But Hashem told me no, so it's no. Not that it's not good, but the fact that it's good doesn't make you bad. The fact that it looks good doesn't make you bad, it makes you normal. Congratulations. You're normal. Actually, so and in this way, in this, Hugaru Meshukas Mesuev, a person can be more inferior, loathsome, and abominable. Yeser more balachayim datamim shkutzim b'damoshim. He says more than the reptiles and the bugs. Why? Because what's a reptile? What's a bug? A bug. It's his fault that God created him creepy, crawly, squishy, and disgusting. No. I went on a hike last year. One of my kids picks up it's a worm or salamander. It's all squiggly. Look, mommy, look, Tati. Put it down. Right? Look, this lizard. Right?
Catch a fish.
What?
Put on a hook and catch a fish.
Yeah. So when something's slimy, disgusting, that's the way God created it. It's not its fault. That's what God created. You know the famous story? That's getting late.
Does a worm have a purpose? If you catch a worm and then you use it to fish,
it
has a purpose.
Yeah,
right?
I was giving an example of.
I guess?
No.
Like there's...
No. A worm.
Not
By the
that
way, if something is impure, doesn't mean you can't use it. A horse, you can use a horse. You can't eat the horse.
Oh yeah, you can't use a horse chop.
By the way, you should know. By the way, there was a whole controversy last year, 2 years ago in Brazil. These people officially were selling cow meat, but it was horse meat. It was a big controversy in Brazil. I want to say
They did that in France as well.
it was a big.
There's a lot of places.
French eat horse
Oh yeah.
meat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a horse meat restaurant in Montreal. Not that I went to, but I thought it was gross.
Yeah. They think they can get away with it because they make good bread and they have good wine and good cheese. All right. And good pastries. All right, let's go. But the point, so what I was trying to say over here is that something that we consider disgusting. It's not bad because, it's disgusting to us, but that's the way God created it. It's functioning exactly how God wants it to function. But us, we can function. We can go against our programming, which makes us worse than them. A worm is a worm. A mouse, a rat, whatever it is. A rat is a rat, even the ones in New York, right? So those are horse rats, right? Those are massive. But even so, it's disgusting, but that's the way God created them. They function exactly how God created them. But you, Mr. Sinner, with the Torah says, you saw the video. But you, we tell Mr. Sinner, you're functioning, you're going against your programming. Let's finish off this page. Like King David said in chapter 22 of Tehillim, he says, I'm a worm. I'm not even a man. Why? Because I'm functioning lower and worse than these ground eaters. Now the author was going to say, what happens? We're going to end off with this powerful idea. Guy's going to say, what are you talking about? Yesterday I daven, amazing. You see, I'm above it. I'm a holy person. No. It's not 100% true. Why? Because true means constant. If I love you only for 5 minutes and I mistreat you for 55 minutes.
Can you Bobby Brown?
Huh?
Sorry. You scratch it for the record. Better than-
I didn't hear.
All right. Meaning.
You keep leaning on him for answers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Word, yeah.
10 is not going to be what you do.
Right. Yeah, this is good. By the way, the comments in the video is going to say, Rabbi, I want to hear more of that guy.
Get him on video.
Exactly.
Too bad they can't see all 40 of us.
Exactly. So the idea is, in Torah in general, there's something called, in the laws of mikveh and waters, there's something called mayim kazuvim, false waters. What is it? If a body of water dries up more than once in 7 years, it's called false waters. You can't use it as a mikveh. Because true means you're constant. It's true. Not that you have a feeling. That's the difference between inspiration or lust, say, and love. So you had a good davening, great, good for you. It doesn't mean today you said I ate well, I was doing great until I had a piece of cake. Today I ate well, I had salad, I had my proteins. That means tomorrow I cancel my thing to the gym and to Weight Watchers because I can't eat a burger anymore because today I ate a salad. You're an idiot, all right? It doesn't. You always have to be vigilant. All right, we're going to stop here, and at where it says 13th of Adar 1, page 381 in the old print, and we will continue, God willing, next week. Everyone have a good week. I think.